today's talk title is Decide to Thrive. And on New Year's Eve day, I listed 11 things that you could do in one day to jumpstart the new year. In fact, it's actually jumpstart any new beginning. And we all need new beginnings. It's always good to have, this is done, I'm moving forward. And I want to go back to the first thing that I talked about, which was decide. The first thing when you're ready for a new beginning is you need to decide something, or when you're just in a fallow ground, you need to decide something. And I've noticed that for some people, decisions are very difficult. I'm surprised. I shouldn't be. They're difficult for me. What should I do? Should I keep 4 horses? Maybe 4 horses are too many. Don't laugh. My husband asks me that all the time. Are 4 horses too many? Anyway, decisions such as that. And I actually worked with people on that day to help them see that their body probably knows more than their head does, because our head can second guess. And so I helped people see that they could ask their body, and how to ask their body, what it is that their total wisdom self was thinking, not just their logical mind. We talk a lot about body, mind, spirit connection, but most of the people mean my mind and my spirit, mostly mind. Well, spirit and body seem to be left out of that a lot. And what I've noticed is my body really knows more than I think it does, and that I give it credit for. So, first service, I had people put out their hands and keep them loose. You could do it now if you want to. But only do it if you have a decision to make. If there's a decision of this or that kind of decision. And what you would do is you'd take your hands, and I do this a lot with people. I said, just put out your hands and put one decision on the one side and one decision on the other side. Just see what, just like, okay, so I'm going to go on a low-carb diet. I'm going to go on the strictly air diet. And then you weigh it to see which one seems heavier, which one seems to that's why you have to have your hands loose. You can't have them on your lap. You serve loose. And what one seems to want to it's got more weight to it. That's the one that's probably the decision. It's got more substance. It's more substantial in your mind. It's just a symbol that your body uses to help you make a decision. So now I'm going to ask you another thing, and I really would like you to go like this. Have some looseness, so you're not waiting, you're not resting on anything. Now I'm going to ask you a question on I should ask you to do 2 things. In one hand, put thriving. I'm going to thrive this year. And then the other hand, you're going to put, no, I'm going to just be happy with the way I am and not rock the boat, and it's okay to have status quo. Now you're going to decide whether to thrive or decide to stay with status quo, and now see which one's heavier. Which one seems to have more substance? And who got thrive? Raise your hand if you got thrive. Okay, for those of you that didn't get thrive, raise your hands. Perfectly okay not to get thrive. Actually, when I was looking at this last night, I didn't get thrive. The reason I didn't is because I know I'd have to change. You see, I know the end. I read the back of the book. I don't want to go there because I'd have to do this. So that's when you can use your mind and go, no, listen, body, it's safe. We can do this. See, a lot of times people get in the way of thriving, and it's perfectly okay. But I know that if I choose not to thrive, it's because somewhere there's a payoff not to. And it has to be a payoff not to because it's normal to. It's normal and natural. I shouldn't say. For human beings, it's not normal. For nature, it's normal. For most of the planet, it's normal. It's natural to thrive. Now let me just give you the definition as I looked up, thrive. It means to grow, to develop well and vigorously, It also can mean to flourish and to prosper. And that is life, what life does. Now, this is my cosmology. You don't have to believe it. The thing I love about Ernest Holmes is he said, we're not going to tell you what to think. We're just going to ask you to. Instead of just taking something for granted, you can think about it. So I'm going to tell you my cosmology, and cosmology means the way I think the universe runs. This is mine. I'll just throw it out there. If you like it, you can have it. I don't care. In my cosmology, life is everywhere. It is what we might call the love intelligence of the universe, and life strives to thrive. If you look at nature, if you look at your garden, if you look at the mold growing in your refrigerator, it is striving to thrive, right? Things like to grow. They like to flourish. They like to multiply. That's life. That's normal and natural. And it seems like it's only human beings who can decide not to. I opt out. Don't want to do it. So that's thriving is healthy. So I want to look at how we might thrive. But first I want to share a quote that I used last week from Judge Thomas Troward, where he said, my mind is a center of divine operation. Or if I was going to put my words on it, my mind, myself, my being is a center of life. And the life is always for expansion and fuller expression. If you think about an oak tree produces much more acorns than is needed to replant the forest. There's enough for the forest, there's enough for the critters that want to eat the acorns, there's enough for everything. There is plenty. When the tree doesn't say to itself, I did so much leafing last year, why go to that effort again this year? If it's healthy, it leafs out, right? If it doesn't, you would call, if you loved your oak tree, you would call an oak tree doctor, whatever those, arborist. Thank you. I couldn't think of it for a minute, but then somebody there, they just thought it, and I went, arborist! You call an arborist because it's normal and natural for that tree to always be growing, branching out, producing what trees produce, which are the fruit, the leaves, and the oxygen for us to breathe. Always. That is normal, that is thriving. If you have a garden and plants aren't thriving, you look to see what's blocking that thriving, because it's normal and natural to thrive. It's normal and natural for us to thrive, especially if we get out of the way. So I have another quote from Judge Thomas Troward, and that says, the law of flotation is not discovered by contemplating the sinking of things. It was not discovered by contemplating the sinking of things. How many of you know people that when they want to do something new, they think about all the things that would go wrong? Just saying. But by contemplating the floating of things, which floated naturally, and then intelligently asking why they did so. So I want to look at why and how does nature thrive, and can I be in alignment with that? So I want to share with you 3 ideas for thriving that will help you thrive. Now, these are contextual. These are not how-tos. I was at a Rainbow Lodge retreat recently, and we started talking about thriving because my intention is that we all thrive, that we all do well. Why not? That's playing a bigger game. I do well. I thrive. A bigger game is how many people can thrive with me. Oh, that's a game I'd like to play. It's like I have food in my pantry. A bigger game is, can I fill the pantry of a food bank so that more people can thrive? You see, it's like if you're doing well, then how many people can you bring in to do well? So my intention is that we are not just a thriving community in mass, we are a thriving community individually. And that means that wherever you are, you grow into a greater expression of life. There is no arrival. There's no I arrived. There's I'm still allowing myself to expand my life so that I benefit myself and others and more and more and more. So you benefit your family and then your neighborhood, your community. That it's always this constant, never-ending expression of what good can I do and what can I have. Not have as in keep, but what am I doing to help others as well. So my ambition is, my intention for this year is to develop a community of people who thrive. And someone at so I'm going back. I didn't forget that I was at the retreat. See, when I ever go off here, this means side thought. Now, back to the real thought. Someone then asked me, so how am I supposed to thrive? And I ticked off 5 things that are to-dos. The left brain loves that. But those to-dos won't work if there's not a context to put them in. If we don't have an inner paradigm shift, we can do and do and do and do and not have the results we think we would get by doing it. So this is the context for thriving, the thought process that you can have internally that jumpstarts those doing things. So, number 1, meditate on flow. Everything in the universe is in motion. I think it was last week I said, don't go with the flow. Only dead fish go with flow. There's a difference between going with the flow and just meditating on flow. So first get the idea, everything's flowing. Everything is vibration. Everything is movement. And not only is it moving, it's moving from place to place. Energy becomes substance. Substance becomes energy. Energy is made more solidified into substance. Substance is released into energy. Everything is flowing. Your blood is flowing. Your cells are coming in, or substance is coming in, making cells, then being released back into the atmosphere. There's flow of oxygen and carbon dioxide with our plants. There's always a circulation. If it's circulating, it's healthy. When it's not circulating, it is dead or dying. Everything is flow. And yet human beings have a tendency to want to make something static and name it and then claim it and then make it permanent in their minds. We do this especially with conditions we don't like. We name them as something. And yet we solidify that something when we say, I am, and then put in the thing. Like, I am sick, or I am in debt, or I am poor, or I am jobless, or I am whatever. The way that to look at it if things are in flow is, I'm going through. I'm going through this period of looking for a job. I'm going through this thing of experiencing this. I am starting to do that with my body because I bought into what my mother told me. My mother told me that at a certain age, my body would start to talk to me, and it wouldn't be nice. And I said, being, snippy and and superior, I didn't say it out loud, but to myself I said, well, that would never happen to me. Thank you for sharing, Mama. And it's happening to me. So once in a while, I'll have a stiff leg, or I'll have a stiff foot, or once in a while, my shoulder aches, or once in a while, I get a neck kink and it won't go away, and my body is chattering. But instead of saying, I hurt, or I am hurt, or I am stiff, I say, wow, well, this is something and it's passing through. And I noticed that then the next day I wonder where it went. Oh, this is something and it's passing through. It's not here to stay. Even the prophet and the writer of Psalms said, lo, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, which is pretty scary, but you notice that he walked through it. It didn't say, lo, though I set up camp in the valley of the shadow of death, and I invite all my friends, and we're starting a condo unit, and we're having a cooperative where everybody shares around the fire at night and describes how bad their life is. And then we have a contest for who could have the worst day that day, which is a metaphor for what some people do. It's not bad, it's just not true. We make something permanent or start to solidify it in our consciousness by identifying with something instead of it's just going through. Everything is flow. The next way to start having a thriving life is, and this is just I want to share it with you, and I noticed that someone else said after first service, this is how they imagine it also, is picture yourself as a river. See yourself as a river with a lake flowing to the ocean. And the river is fed from the heavens. And I think it's in Godspell where it says, all good things come from heaven. All good things come from heaven. Well, heaven's within us, but the metaphor is perfect. And the reason I'm using this metaphor and knowing that it's not absolutely, literally true, but it's still true. It's not small t true, but it's literally capital T true, is that our part of our brain only thinks in pictures. So what happens is we can have all the right words and the wrong pictures. So we can have, oh, I'm abundant, and I'm abundant. But if you really ask yourself, how do I see myself? You are a dry riverbed with this little trickle going through it that even a fish couldn't swim in. So I'm saying change the picture. Ernest Holmes said, change your thinking, change your life. Change the picture too. You have to see something that represents you. That's what myth is all about. That's why stories work. So see yourself as a river and see it full to the banks and see it flowing beautifully. The more it flows, the cleaner it is. When it starts to stagnate, stuff you don't want to grow starts to grow. And where is it fed from? From heavens, and then tributaries. And then you decide that you're going to have a lake, and that's where you can invite all your friends. Splash around, have fun. And then let it go again, because if you stop it, if you say, no, this is my stuff, then you become not a lake, a dead sea. Briny. Smelly. So you open it up and let things flow. To do a meditation once a week on just seeing yourself as this fresh flowing river. And if you can't see yourself as a fresh flowing river, ask yourself, why not? What's the block? Where does it come from? A way to have words that go with that picture is something like, I am a healthy stream of goodness through which goodness flows, bringing blessings to myself and others. I am a healthy stream of goodness through which goodness flows and brings blessings to myself and others. Because a healthy river supports everything around it. You are extending that thriving life so that others thrive. And so do you. Number 3, never look at anything outside of yourself as your sole source of well-being. Never look at anything outside of yourself as your sole source of well-being. So don't see your paycheck, your commissions, your child support, don't see your Social Security, your savings, your investments as your source of support. They are just tributaries. What blesses you comes from heaven, and you have tributaries. And I love to play the game of more tributaries, just because it's fun. It's expansion and fuller expression. How many tributaries can I have this year? It's kind of fun. At the end of the year, how many tributaries? It's fun. You let that flow. And let some of the tributaries bless you. So let's call a few of these tributaries just doing what you love to do. Charles, what was his name? Sir Richard Bronson was interviewed on TV, and he said that he started Virgin Records in the basement of his apartment in London, and he started it just because he loved music, and look what happened. And then he started letting himself be supported in that. Just supported. I don't know why, but for at least 30 years, maybe longer, I've been collecting paper. I have this huge room upstairs in my house. It's filled with paper. And I just have it all over the floor because I just want to look at the paper. Tim is afraid to walk in there. And I said, but I love this. I can see more of my paper. I just want to look at the paper. Now I do things with paper. And you know what? Sometimes it sells. And it comes back to me. But it doesn't matter because I'm doing what I love. Lyndon loves to create beauty. And it comes back to him. What are you doing that you love? And are you willing to let it be a tributary? It's just a thought. Now, let's put this all together. This talk is conceptual and provides a context within which I want to share tips, because the last thing I said, or I shouldn't say, the second item that I used on that New Year's Eve day talk was after you decide, you then have to act on the decision. So if you choose to thrive, and if you choose to see yourself as the place through which goodness flows, if you're willing to receive from heaven, which is just a metaphor, I don't think no bag's gonna fall on your head. That would hurt. If you're willing to see that, if you're willing to not only have a river, but then also create a pond and a lake in which to enjoy the water, the goodness, then you also have to do some things. Last week I said, be grateful. This is my thriving tip for this week. And that is to start creating ponds or outlets that will start to collect the water, the little lakes along the flow. So if there's something that you want to do, put aside some money, start a savings account, whether it's in a jar or at a bank, it doesn't matter, or just a section. I love playing with, I guess I've been in nonprofits too long. I love a chart of accounts. So my checking account has a chart of accounts. And I put money away for things. So if I think I'm going to need something, I just start putting little bits of money in there. It's amazing how it starts to fill up. If you have no place for the money to flow, it'll flow through. If you have places for the money to be collected, it'll start to collect. It's just the way it works. Try it. I remember someone talking to me it was in the bookstore in our fellowship hall when we just moved into this property, and they wanted to start traveling more, and they didn't see how they were going to do that, and I just said, start an account. That person is a traveler. A traveler. So now we're going to open it up to questions, which is one of my favorite parts, because what I've noticed is I can think I'm very clear, and yet through questions, I realize that there are things I haven't explained, and I don't know what I don't know. But you know what I didn't say, because you still have a question. So who has a question about thriving, either in the conceptual or the specific? And Liam is here to help you ask that question so that people can listen. By the way, I was looking at our stats. Do you know that there are people from 53 countries that watched us live streaming last year. Yay! And I will say hello to our Texas family. Hello. All right, who has a question? Because what will happen is you'll leave here and you don't know quite how to make it work. And someone actually, after first service, was asking me questions about thriving in the lobby. That's not the place to ask it. Because if you have a question, you probably represent at least 40% of the people in the room. So be generous and share your question so other people can be blessed by it. Come on up, Barbara.
I was surprised when you asked the question, do you want to thrive or not, and there was more heaviness on not. So how do I work with that?
I don't know. How do you think you should?
Well, I do a lot of practices, a lot of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Do a lot of imaging on what it is I like and where I'm.
What do you think keeps you from wanting to thrive? What is your subconscious afraid of? That's the place to go. You can't just plow through this. You know the subconscious always wins. The conscious mind says, oh, I'm the boss. All right. No. Since consciousness is the sum total of what you think, and what you've thought, so all those buried beliefs, what wins is the subconscious. Now, the conscious mind can make choices and redirect it. But if there's a big belief, I'm not thriving, oh no, heck no. Like for instance, when I did it last night, when I realized I didn't want to thrive, is I knew how I wanted to thrive, and I didn't want to thrive because I thought it'd be too much work.
Yeah, that's true for me.
What else? What else would keep you from wanting to thrive?
You know, I've been working on this for years. I wonder if it's some bad habits. I wonder if it's that simple.
Oh, it's not simple, huh?
Well, I know. Yeah, there's the simple aspect.
Okay, stand up. No, right over here. Right. Yeah. Okay, stand up. Put out your both hands. Make them flexible. Okay. What hand wants to be? It can't be that simple. Okay. Now the other. So in the other hand, put it would be too much work. Which is heavier?
This one, the too much work.
It's too much work. How many of you, if you look deeply, don't want to thrive because it would be too much work? Okay, so do you think that the tree works hard to be a tree? It's a concept that can only be in the human mind. And part of Jesus' teaching was that his way was easy. I'm going to paraphrase some words out of the New Testament. My way's easy. You do it your way, but my way's easy. Excuse me, I'm going to go the easy way, which is not working too hard. So now, if you could adopt that life could be easy, would you want to thrive?
Yes.
Well, then there we go. Now, this is important because if you just continue to pray, now this is for all of you. If you just continue to pray, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I got this, but in your gut, you believe it would be too hard and too much work to get there, you won't even start. So it just becomes a wish. So you pray, you've got a spiritual practice. So you now do a correct on your spiritual practice. And the new spiritual practice is there's one life. That life is God's life. And that life is my life. And God lives life through me easily. So you start to identify with the natural expression of life, which is to just unfold easily. Instead of, oh, I don't know if I really want to do this. Because how many of you are already got too much to do anyway? Oh, and then I say, hey, let's throw some thrive on it. And your mind goes, oh no, I'm going to thrive at too much to do. I'm leaving this. You know, that she was really nice for a while, but I hate that religion. I'm going to go back and just be saved. Yay, Barbara! Yay! Now, how many of you feel like you had a shift just because Barbara was so willing to share? See, Barbara, you look at how many people you blessed. That's wonderful. So let's just move into our final, it's not quite a prayer, but it's our new affirmation for this year. If this year I want to share thriving, I need to share with you this thought from Judge Thomas Troward. My mind, that's the way he put it, but I might phrase it a little bit differently and say, my life is a center of divine operation. And the divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression of who I truly am, which is the very life of God. For there is only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is always expressing itself perfectly, and so it expresses itself perfectly through me. And I don't have to try to live. I let life live me. So let's say it together, or repeat after me Judge Thomas Troward's words. My mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression of my true self. And this year I live that. I demonstrate it. I thrive. And I let others thrive around me. And so it is.